of this country, the continent, but also of the globe, right? Because certainly for me, when you're also looking at some of the things that are coming out of the, like research coming out of the IEC and so on, we are not participating as young people. And yes, we've become despondent in some way because, you know, a lot of things we've been failed on so many levels. But we can't give up, because I think, to also circle back to some of the earlier panels, particularly the point that was made by Uputjanti, right, around the fact that, I mean, when you're looking at research, around, you know, in 2050, Africa will be the youngest continent. And when you're looking at the global north, the population there is growing older, but we are growing younger, right? By 2050, 1 in 4 people in the world will be African, right? So I think for me, the question is, what are we doing about that, in the sense that also the powers that be are taking decisions on our behalf? And that is why for us as the Y20 South Africa, when this G20, we heard that it's coming to South Africa and it's wrapping up the, you know, the Global South cycle, we said, we're going to mobilize ourselves, we're going to conscientize ourselves, but also we're going to organize ourselves as young people working in the youth development space to lead the Y20, because again, when you're looking at the G20, right, it's structured alongside, you know, the finance track, the Sherpa or political track, but also the social track. And that's where the youth engagement thing, the 14 engagement groups exist. And they must be led by civil society, right? So we said, despite the multiple problems and so on, but we're going to organize ourselves and say, we want, for example, you know, for the Y20 to be institutionalized, right? So I think for me, part of that question in terms of breaking into not only the tech sector, but any sector that you want to go into, you need to participate, and participating sometimes means knocking on those doors despite how hard it may be, right? And I know sometimes it's difficult, you know, we tend to give up. You know, it's like I tell young people who want to go to university, yeah, but I don't have funds. Funding will find you on the way. Apply, right? Like, program directors, I know we're in a church, so I'm a preach. You know, like sometimes, you know, this thing of, you know, you must move. What is it? Move by faith, not by sight. Move. We must move, comrades. Like this thing of sitting and saying, yeah, they'll, like, go. Like municipalities, for example, have got youth directorates. What are those youth directorates doing with the budget that they're given that is supposed to come to us as young people? How many of us know that the Pan-African Parliament is headquartered in Midrand, South Africa, in this country? But also, that parliament has a youth caucus. What are they caucusing about? And why, no, like literally, what are they caucusing about? Because they're given a budget to go and caucus around African youth issues and so on and so on. And it is the onus is on us to go at that youth caucus. And it is a caucus. Let's caucus together and tell your lived experience that I'm a young person trying to break into tech, into technology, into Microsoft. I've been knocking on Microsoft doors. Bill Gates is giving me issues hey, open those doors. Because it is really only by, like, I'm serious. We have to organize ourselves and really mobilize ourselves and conscientize ourselves, because also our organizing and mobilizing can't just be in a vacuum, right? If you're looking at any change in this world, I mean, I'm wrapping up, program directors. I mean, but really, no, I must say this. You know, in 2011, there was a young man in Tunisia. In that country, the country was experiencing high levels of unemployment like this country. Right, and oftentimes you have, you know, social researchers who are asking ourselves, but South Africa is not burning for a country that has a higher youth unemployment rate. It's even crazy when you look at the expanded definition. But that young person, I think it's Mohamed Bouazizi, set himself on fire when a policeman approached him to say, you can't sell your vegetables and so on because you don't have a license to trade. But that young person didn't know that him setting himself on fire as an act of protest would spark what we now study as the Arab Spring. We know what's happening in Mozambique, Cabo Delgado. We know what's happening in the DRC, right? The Kivu region and so on, in the fight for minerals, where young people are saying, I'm going to join an insurgent movement because there's no jobs. We know what's happening in Nigeria. We know what's happening in Eswatini, and we pretend like we don't know. We know what happened in this country in July 2021. So the question then is, are we at the tip of a Saharan spring? And I raise that because I think these are the things that also the colleagues who are here, who are in different boardrooms, and we need to think about these things. Because I think if we can't capture our young people and capture them in the right way, this country will burn. We are seeing now the rise of what Gen Z protesters and all those things. So I will leave it there, program directors. I'm just, raising provocations for us to consider. right? For both us as young people, but also for the powers that be that create those opportunities, right? Inclusion should be a rule, not an exception. Thank you.